Greetings, Dave Truss here with 4 quick tips for running video meetings in Microsoft Teams. My first tip is to turn off sound notifications. The reason for doing this is because they can be quite annoying and interrupt you when you're doing your video meetings. To do this, go to the top right corner of Teams and you'll see your initials or your image that you've put as your profile picture. Click on that, go to Settings, Notifications, scroll down to Other, and turn off notification sounds. One important thing to realize is this also turns off sounds for things like incoming calls. So you might want to only do this when you have a video conference. I like to have it off all the time. As well, you might want to mute chat conversations, especially if you have them as banners, because they can be quite an interruption. And there are a couple things that you can do here. One is to go to the same profile image, click on it, go to settings, notifications, and make it so that your mentions and your messages are only showing up in your feed and that they're not actually showing up as a banner. That's one way to help reduce the notifications. Another one, if you like to have those on, is you might be involved in a chat that has a lot of conversation going on in the background. I often leave my lit team check-in to go to another meeting and they continue on with their conversation in that meeting. And so I would mute that individual conversation by going to the chat, clicking on the ellipses for that chat, and marking it as mute. My next one is for screen sharing, is to open up a web-based chat. One of the challenges when you do screen sharing in Teams is you can't see the chat conversation in the background. What I do is I usually have 2 screens anyway. So in Teams, I share my screen, but in my other window, I open up the web-based version of Teams and I go to the chat for the video conference conversation that I'm in. That way I have a full view of the chat and I am able to see it even when I am sharing my screen. However, even with having the chat open, I find that it's be quite challenging to run a video meeting where you're doing presentations and talking to your audience, and then you're also trying to pay attention to what's happening in the conversation back channel. So use a back channeler. It can be extremely overwhelming to try and run these meetings and also pay attention to that back channel. So if you have someone who's helping you in that back channel, they can manage the conversation, they can help you with things like muting microphones, they can not only answer questions in the chat that you don't have to, but also choose when it's a good time to interrupt you. For instance, there might be a question that can wait for a good time for you to pause, and there might be a question that is actually going to help the entire audience if you were interrupted to be asked that. So the other thing that they can do is share links and resources. So having that person in the background who can assist you with that back channel, someone I call a back channeler, is extremely helpful. And by the way, it's perfectly okay to have a student be in charge of that if you're working with a team, and that student's role will help other people understand the importance of communication in that back channel. And then I have written a blog post about that, so there's the link and you can go to that. And then finally, I have also created a PDF of these instructions so that you can see them without having to go through the entire video. Thanks, and I hope you enjoyed these 4 quick tips for using Microsoft Teams, video meetings in Microsoft Teams.